Right. Hi, welcome to the Academic Job Search Series with FASD and Part 1, Finding the Right Fit. This series, the three workshops associated with it, are meant to walk you through the process of searching for, applying for, and interviewing for a faculty position, particularly a tenure track faculty position, but not necessarily so. And so each of these workshops is going to walk you through a different part of the process. Part one here is really helping you with the search and identifying the right fit. Part two, later in the series, we're really talking about putting together the actual application, the different types of applications you might need to consider, as well as part three, then, which is going to be the process of going and actually interviewing for the role and potentially negotiating any offers. When academic jobs are released, commonly, at least in the United States, uh, positions can be advertised year-round, but the cycle typically starts each year, new calendar year, spring and summer, when departments have finalized their budgets for the next year and will update and release new positions starting even in January or February. And applications are typically due sometime in the summer, oftentimes in the late or early fall. And then throughout the fall and winter will be the different interviews. It's really important to understand kind of the full part of the process so you can really begin planning beforehand and using that time to be able to develop your materials as strongly as possible. And in addition, the earlier you can get your applications in, the better, because when you do that, it will ensure that the applications and the search committee are looking at your applications before they're making their decisions on first interview offers. Even if a job says that they will take any application through, say, October 30th, it could be that they will begin looking and deciding on candidate interviews early in September, depending on the time and bandwidth of the committee. So, just a brief recap. Of course, the typical academic path, typical, is that you, as a graduate student or postdoc, you are going to apply for open faculty positions, start as some kind of assistant professor or visiting professor. If you're on a tenure track, you're going to be balancing the different responsibilities that you have, and then the goal is to become tenured and be promoted to the rank of associate professor. It is becoming more common now that many academic institutions offer teaching tracks or research tracks that are similar in path to tenure, which is basically just an outline of how you can be promoted to associate professor. And the things that you do when you're applying, such as, identifying the right position for you, negotiating your startup package, and starting your laboratory or your teaching career can really assist you in the process of successfully being promoted to associate professor. But really, we're going to focus on the beginning part of this path today. So one of the goals of today's workshop and then the live workshop that will be in March, early March, is understanding the differences between the different institutions and identifying what might be important for you. We're going to focus predominantly on institutions in the United States for this workshop series, but several of the components do work for other organizations and academic institutions outside of the United States. Within the US, there are doctoral granting universities, master colleges and universities, colleges that only award bachelor's degrees, associates community colleges, and certainly special focus institutions, nonprofit organizations, and vocational schools. Each of these do hire faculty at the assistant, associate, and full professor rank, and each of them are going to come with different types of responsibilities. Even within a doctoral university, say at the University of Maryland or the University of California, San Francisco, you might have different roles depending on whether you join a College of Medicine or College of Liberal Arts and Sciences or College of Engineering. So we're going to explore that a little bit now. The big three job responsibilities as a faculty, no matter where you are generally bucketed into research responsibilities, teaching, and service. And the balance between what you're going to be responsible for as a faculty member can vary greatly with respect to a lot of these components. So teaching load, how much you're teaching, how often you're teaching, who you're teaching, your mentorship responsibilities in teaching, whether you're going to be advising students academically or not, certainly advising students that you bring on to do your research, how much grant writing support or grant writing you must do to bring in funding to fund your research, how much of your salary is covered by the institution. So hard money, which is covered by the institution versus how much you're going to have to generate yourself or soft money, the types of infrastructure that's there to support you in these three types of responsibilities are going to really vary by certainly by school, by position, and oftentimes even within a department. So you want to show when you're applying for these roles, but let's say you're applying for a faculty position that's predominantly teaching, you're going to want to show your experience in the types of functions that will be required of you in the role. From the perspective of the search committee, they are looking for a colleague and a new addition to strengthen the ranks of their department, but also someone they know can do the job that they need to do. Before we dive into some of those specifics, one ranking system that you might be familiar with is the Carnegie classification system, and it's a way of determining just how much infrastructure and resources a particular institution might have. So the Carnegie classification changed from R1, R2, R3 a couple years ago into a different framework, which I'll explain in a minute. But currently, and as of 2025, there are almost 4,000 degree granting higher education institutions in the United States. So there are a lot of institutions and a lot of opportunity there to find a faculty position. As of 2020, there were almost 2,700 universities in Europe, over almost 6,300 in Asia, 1,300 in Africa, and almost 2,000 in Central and South America, and 223 in Canada. So, especially internationally, there are thousands of opportunities as well. In the United States, Carnegie has classified some institutions out of this bucket of 4,000 based off of their research infrastructure and the amount of doctoral degrees that they grant. So R1 institutions are considered to be very high spending and doctoral producing, and there are 187 of those in the United States. And on average, in a single year, these institutions spend at least $50 million on research and development and award at least 70 research doctorates. An R2 university is considered to be a high spending and doctor producing institution. There are 139 of these, and they have a research budget of at least 5 million in research development and award at least 20 doctoral degrees. And then other colleges that are research colleges and universities there are 216 of them. So you can go to the Carnegie website and take a look at which institution is in which classification, if that gives you any insights into the type of institution or the type of infrastructure you're hoping will be able to support you as a faculty member. Now, when you're determining what type of research institution is right for you, you want to look at not only the infrastructure that's there, but also the types of responsibilities. Typically, and I put this loosely in quotes, an R1 institution like a University of Maryland or Johns Hopkins, for a lot of faculty appointments, you're going to be required to do a heavy amount of research and some teaching. Now, this might vary between schools. If you have a School of Medicine appointment, you're predominantly going to only be doing research and grant writing. Whereas if you're in the School of Liberal Arts and Sciences or in a different college, you might be expected to do 50-50 between research and teaching. So again, the responsibilities of the faculty role are going to vary by department, by college and university, and certainly should be spelled out very clearly for you in the job description. But you can expect that if you are at an R2 designated university, like Morgan State or San Jose State University, there might be more of a balance between your research and teaching expectations. And when you go to universities that have spent fewer on research and development and award fewer doctoral degrees overall, you are likely going to be spending more time teaching at the graduate or undergraduate level than doing research. Again, these are generalized buckets. This is not necessarily true for any specific university, but it can kind of give you a feel, especially if you are still getting familiar with the US system of universities, kind of the expectations you would expect joining their ranks. So let's take a look at a couple job descriptions. These are active as of February 2026. And the job description should give you a sense of the expectations of what you're going to be doing between research, teaching, and service. So for an assistant professor research track role at the University of Pennsylvania, They're requiring expertise in specific areas of advanced genomics and super resolution imaging techniques. So again, very specific expertise they're looking to hire to join the department. And this is pulled right from the job description. In fact, this is about the only words that they really give in the job description. Your research and scholarship responsibilities might include developing collaborative and independent research programs, co-supervision of postdocs, students, and research staff, coordinating NIH-funded grant efforts, and active leadership in grant writing reports and manuscripts. So this is a very, very research-heavy faculty role at the University of Pennsylvania. Now let's look at an assistant professor level at another R1 institution, Iowa State University. This one is looking for a faculty member to join an integrative research program at any biological scale. So again, this is a little bit more open when it comes to the type of research that they're looking for and expertise they're looking for. They are looking for someone to conduct impactful research. They're especially looking for those that have research interests in environmental change and ecological or organismal health, the ability to provide effective teaching and student learning, and they really have outlined ability and commitment to contribute to the department's principles of community. So this role you would expect to have more of a balance between research, teaching, and service, particularly if they're calling out that service in the job description. And so you'd expect that in your application, you would want to have materials that really exemplify your research skill set and your teaching skill set. This is another position for an assistant professor at Bryant University, which is a R2 university. And again, teach as appropriate and develop undergraduate and graduate courses in biological and biomedical sciences, implement innovative teaching methods, establish and maintain an independent research program, building community partnerships, and participate in service. So this is another job description that really speaks to the balance between the three big responsibilities of a faculty member, but the emphasis here is on teaching. So they are really looking for someone, as the first bullet points show, someone that really is an effective teacher and someone that can manage a classroom and engage with students. Secondary, and secondary is the research program. So again, the expectations here would be that if you were going to be a competitive applicant, that you would really want to put your best experience forward, emphasizing your teaching and pedagogy. And then this is just another example where there's even a delineation. This is how much teaching you're going to be responsible for, 24 credit hours a year. And this is the type of teaching. And again, supervising semester-long student capstone research projects. They are asking for some scholarship. However, that doesn't necessarily mean it's specifically research. So this would be a very much a teaching-focused role with a secondary component in research. There are other tenure track like faculty positions at other institutions, like in the government, as a Stedman Fellow, and government contractors, as well as faculty and teaching faculty positions at nonprofits like St. Jude's Research Hospital or Genelia Research Campuses. Their job descriptions are going to be similar in outlining the types of expertise and the skills they're looking for, but their tenure track process would likely be a little bit different. Okay. So in this kind of overview before the live workshop, the other aspect that we want to think about is if you are really just beginning your journey into deciding whether or not you want to join a faculty position in an institution, one tool that we like to highlight, and this is something that we're going to really emphasize in the live workshop on March 4th, is this tool called the ACRA. And this is a tool that you can use to assess your skill sets and identify what you might need to shore up on before you apply for a specific type of role. So this was developed by the University of California, San Francisco a couple years ago. It's called the Academic Career Readiness Assessment. And what this is what research faculty came together and defined the most important criteria that they use to evaluate faculty candidates. So example, one of them is research vision and strategy. So for like that job at UPenn, it would be expected of you as a competitive applicant to really outline the research goals that you have, the types of skills that you have, and the reason why you're doing the research that you want to do. Now, the next component of the ACRA is going to identify the things that faculty search committees would evaluate you on. And then they break that down by the type of faculty role. So for T here, that means a teaching only role. An RT is a research or teaching role. And then an R faculty role would be purely research. And then the percentage of what level of sophistication and detail and expertise and independence you were likely to have if you're applying for those roles. So if you are applying for a research only faculty position, you are really expected the faculty search committees are really expecting that you are at this level 2 or 3, a more of an advanced demonstration of independent research and vision outline. Whereas if you're applying for more of a research and teaching role, there is an emphasis on that, but it's okay if you are really still defining your research vision and maybe grounding it in specific literature, but that you not have not yet shown specific independence in that field. So again, the idea here is that you can look through each of the faculty criterion or qualifications and get a sense of if you are going for a research faculty role, for instance, what do you need to emphasize in your application materials? Research vision and strategy is going to be of big importance, particularly showing independence and showing a well-articulated vision. If you're applying for a teaching faculty or teaching role, you really aren't going to have to spend any time defining that because you're going to be in the classroom as opposed to running a research laboratory. Um, so again, this is just examples. There's a couple dozen different qualifications and criteria that faculty search committees might evaluate you on: funding plan, research independence. We are going to dive deeper into the ACRA when we meet on March 4th, if you're able to come into the live workshop. So just becoming a little bit familiar with this. It will be linked in the pre-workshop materials. You can dive a little bit deeper and familiarize yourself with this. But it is a way of understanding where you are at and where you might need to build up either expertise or skill sets or articulation of your skill sets to be able to really align with kind of the expectations from search committees. So again, when you're starting the job search, you want to assess your goals and values. What do you enjoy most? Do you enjoy teaching? Do you want to potentially do some teaching? Do you hate teaching and you just want to do research? That might guide you in the types of roles you might apply for. Are you looking for roles where you're going to have to generate grant money to support your position? Typically, the more soft money required to cover your salary or grant money, more likely than the less teaching you're going to do because you're going to be spending that additional time outside of research grant writing. Are you geographically restricted? Do you want to interact with students? All of these types of goals and values should influence the types of roles you might be applying for. And again, assessing your skills. Read over the job descriptions of different jobs that you might be considering, what components are needed. And then if you need more experience or you feel that you aren't yet competitive enough in a particular skill set, try and gain that experience. Is it just becoming more familiar with a particular technique? Or is it just making sure you have more mentoring opportunities or teaching experience, particularly if you are going to be in a predominantly teaching role, you will need to show teaching classroom experience, typically even, instructor on record type of experience. So again, if you are still unsure what the best fit is, also conduct informational interviews with various faculty. Speak with them about their roles, their skill sets, the things that they rely on to succeed. And again, it is prudent to write grants, mentor trainees, and try teaching before applying to these jobs to really understand what you enjoy. So getting some experiential learning during this process can really help you identify the right opportunity for you. Once you're in the job market, again, workshop 2 is going to be talking about putting together competitive application materials. Again, there are a lot of different ways that you can find jobs and faculty applications, certainly in individual universities, using your networks and societies and their job boards, social media, the job archive, and Future PI Slack have postings. Nature careers, science careers, higher ed jobs, these websites, which are linked in the slides, are all great job boards within the United States and abroad. And then there are numerous job boards outside of the US. There's a couple here that are specific for Europe. but Times Higher Education also has a job board for especially faculty in Asia and faculty positions in Asia. So there are a lot of databases out there that you can begin to do some searches and get a sense of what's open and what's not. So next steps, assess the types of roles you're interested in. Start looking for opportunities, even if you are a year or two away from applying, getting a sense of what departments are hiring and what types of roles are going to be opening up can give you a sense of what you need to work on as a postdoc or as a graduate student to shore up your experience. And then begin preparing your materials. So again, the job description is really going to help you identify the materials that you will need. Um, Particularly drafting, your CV, research and teaching statements, identifying who you're going to be your references will be very important to any application you apply for. And then part two of this series, all the pre-workshops recordings are going to be released at the same time, but we will have a live workshop associated with each. So the live one for this one is March 4th. Part two, which is to walk you through the application process, that live workshop will be March 25th. And then part three will be on April 15th. So join us on March 4th. We're going to do a Q&A on any of the material presented here. Now, I'll be there with some other special guests. We're going to deep dive into an activity related to the ACRA and also help you strategize for future goals when you're applying for roles. And then we will host a Q&A with a current Mosaic Fellow about their faculty search process, someone that has recently just joined the ranks of assistant professor and who will give you really insight and current advice on how to navigate the search process. So again, thank you for your time, and we look forward to seeing you in a couple weeks.